Welcome everyone to VR Jungle, a Havoc podcast. This is your host Geralty, and today, because of a tournament that I've actually just was in on Saturday, I'm just like, this guy who's running these tournaments in the Discord is freaking awesome. I need to get him on the podcast, so that's why I have with me Dr. Oolong, which I was in the tournament called VR Fight Nights. I said it right. See that? I got that. But
there you go. You got it this time.
I got
there
it
we
this
go.
time.
It was perfect.
All the acronyms.
We rehearsed before.
We rehearsed. I said it 5 times. You say, "Look at me." Say it 5 times.
I said, "Look at me dead in my eyes," and I lifted up my glasses and I took a small part of Geralt's soul.
Yes, and I felt it. But how you doing today? And let's hear about yourself. What do you do? Who are you?
Doing great. So yeah, if you do not know me, I am Dr. Oolong. I run a little event called VR Fight Nights. It is a weekly semi-automated event run via Discord. I've built a custom bot to help me with the matchmaking, but I also do a lot else. I run events for Spark, for Blaston, for Iron Lights, and then very recently, I started running events for Walkabout Mini Golf, Tabletop 11 tabletop tennis, and then of course Ultimex VR, and then very, very recently I held a small event for the Broken Edge beta. So that was a lot of fun, a lot of new games coming out this season, and I am super stoked for what lies in the future with a lot of these competitive games coming out.
Yeah. So yeah, you're definitely in the scene for VR, and so with that, like, what was the idea? Because you also stream as well, and so like, where was your first start of VR? Like, what made you even want to play VR? Like, why are you not doing this in Pancake Gaming? That why VR?
Well, because honestly, why VR? As soon as I started getting into VR, I just realized that it was a completely different medium from normal gaming. I had been a gamer all my life. I still am a 2D gamer from time to time.
Yeah.
But as soon as you load up, you sort of realize, oh shoot, this is something completely different. And the first game for me was Spark. That's how I got my start really streaming overall. Spark was a game that came out in 2016. It was a release title for the original PSVR, and it was essentially Tron Dodgeball, right? You're in a tank, a long tank, with a ball. When you hold it, you get a shield that you can use to reflect, and you can bounce the ball off of all 4 corners of the tank. And right off the bat, with those are the mechanics that the developers give you, and then you just run with it. And there started to become a really competitive scene that came out, despite the fact that at this point the game wasn't getting any updates, it wasn't getting any support from the devs, and people started running this game. And I decided, well, if people are going to show up and want to play, I'm going to go ahead and start running games for this. I love this game. I don't want this game to die. So I went to go hold the tournament, and then the servers shut down, and they shut down for 3 weeks. And I just was sitting here basically saying, all right, well, as soon as the servers are back up, I'm going to go ahead and run this tournament. But yeah, I can't run a tournament if you're going to shut the servers down on me like this. And they ended up going up after 3 weeks. We all came together. It was sort of like a celebration of like the servers finally being back up. And that's the moment that I realized, like, okay, people are willing to play in these events, but also people are willing to watch these events. And I just did this because I didn't want to put my face on the internet. And it just sort of became my look of being incognito and having this, bot in the shadows running these events for me. It makes it very easy for me to just get on and go.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with Spark, I don't think I've ever played Spark. Was that a PC VR?
It also made its way to PC VR, but the majority, I would say about half of the player base was running the original PlayStation VR.
The PlayStation VR?
Yeah. And it was simple enough that the tracking was fairly accurate for it. And again, it had this really big competitive scene, but pretty much right after release, there's a whole big scandal that happened with it. But essentially, everybody in the gaming studio was fired. And they ceased all additional updates for the game. It was really sad, actually. They ended up shutting down the game for good recently. And they gave us like a month notice, and that was it. And I ran my last tournament with it, and it was sad. But yeah, no, a month after release, they fired the entire studio. No future updates. After there was actually one update after that, and it actually removed features from the game. But we still love it. We still love what CCP's given us. And actually, even with the servers down, don't tell them I told you this, but there still are servers that you can access. There are people who have gone out in the community who have been super, super amazing, and have put up their own pirate servers that you can go and play different game modes on. It's actually super cool.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah, so it's like hush hush with all that. So
yeah,
like
I mean, and I feel like, when you play VR esports, and that is your way of staying active, especially during a pandemic, and then that gets taken away, people just don't take that lying down. They really do find ways to continue keeping up those routines.
Oh yeah, I could definitely see that, and especially with how many people can actually mod and actually like get into things. I know so many people, even when like Population 1 came out, that they're just like, yeah, you want to see what they have planned for a while? Oh, check this out. We're in their files right now. And that's where like you get all the leaks and everything like that. And it's just like, all right, cool. I guess I pretty much know what their whole roadmap, like what they're hiding from us. Cool. That's really awesome. And then a lot of times they can get people in VR kind of in trouble. It's like, I'm not going to mention what game this is, but there was a game that they found Pancake files in it as if it was supposed to be originally made into a PC game and not a VR game. But maybe they were just dabbling and they were playing around, but who knows? But I thought that was pretty interesting. I'm like, oh, you guys just don't even tell me this stuff. Keep me away from that.
And you know what? That actually kind of segues into something that I did want to talk about. Skipping ahead, hopefully, a little bit in the questions.
It's fine. We'll come back.
The events that I run, so the 5 main games that I'm running right now are not really Spark, because again, servers are shut down. That's very inconvenient. You can't even buy the game, but mostly Blast On, Iron Lights, and then I really do want to start running events for Ultimex, and then Broken Edge, and those are the main 4. And I would say everyone, with the exception a little bit of Ultimex, is what I consider to be a V-Sport. A V-Sport was a term that was created actually by Spark when it came out. And I think it goes a little bit... No. V-Sport. Like V, like virtual. Okay. Virtual sport.
Okay.
So here are my 3 boxes. Right over here, we have normal esports, normal Pancake esports.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Focus mostly on execution. Players, some of these players are, having the highest rate of inputs and just really split-second timing. You know them, League of Legends, CSGO.
Yep.
We know those. Then you have a VR esports. And I picture these as games that could feasibly exist in Pancake form, but are transformed by the fact that they are in virtual reality, right? I consider stuff like Contractors, Pavlov, Pop One, all of those VR shooters, I consider those VR esports. Very technically challenging. I mean, I can't shoot in VR at all. I just can't even play those games. I try, and it's just a compilation of me dying over and over and over and over again. But you watch people playing those games, and they're just going and doing the tactics. But there's exterior movement. You're moving for sure, like you're moving up and down. But you're not really utilizing your full play space some of the time. And that's where we get into this last category, V-Sports, virtual sports. These are games that not only are transformed by the virtual space, but really could not exist without that virtual space. These are games that have you physically using the play space around you, that require you to do intense physical movements, like to the degree that if you have something in your play space, there's a 90% chance that you are going to get injured. Really, any game that you could get injured in due to the physical movement is a V-Sport. So like Blast On is the one that I go to. That game has you sweating because the developers force you to get on the ground. Like, you want to dodge? Great. Get on the ground and dodge. And then you're going to have to do a squat jump up, because someone's going to fire a bullet at you on the ground, And I think the real thing that differentiates, in my mind, VR esports and V-Sports for me is VR esports still have this focus on execution, on precision movements, on squad tactics. V-Sports introduce a new element, which is Try and have tactics when you are being shot in the face and you are now 20 minutes in to a possible 45-minute set, and the people who are running the event are yelling at you because you're low on battery and you are just pouring in sweat, but you have to keep going. It's very hard to bring tactics when you're that tired, you know, and have it 100% of the time.
Yeah. So what would you consider Ultimex in?
Ultimex is leaning more of a VR esport to me. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Again, I'm not necessarily trying to say that, you know, Pavlov VR events are less than Blaston VR events. Absolutely not. It's just the level of intensity. And I think that on purpose, Ultimex is a less intense game than something like Blaston. It's free to play. It's obviously trying to go for a greater market share than something like Blaston. And the movements are much simpler. It's more about the execution rather than you utilizing your full play space. There's a little bit, you're sitting there going like this for sure, and it's a ton of fun, but not really getting your heart rate up.
Yeah, so do you think Echo Arena would fit into a V-Sport?
Oh, I got into this conversation the other day too. Echo's tricky. Echo's tricky because it lies right on the line for me.
Really?
And
Have you seen some of those pro players play though?
That's the thing. That's the thing, is that when the pro players are playing, and you could say the same thing for professional Pavlov or any of the shooters too.
Yeah.
They are fully, part of what differentiates them is the fact that they're able to fully utilize their play space. And really, I mean, the depth of Echo too is, you know, the ability to knock people out, and you have to dodge them in your play space. You know, it's frisbee golf, but someone can walk up to you and just punch you in the face too.
Yeah, exactly.
And yeah, that sort of puts it right on the edge for me, where maybe a newer player is focusing more on precision, more on just basic maneuvering with the jets. And then you get into this professional level of play where now it actually has transformed into this physical activity. You're now playing a real sport, and you just happen to have rockets on your hands as well. I think that's part of the reason why Echo has stayed so popular, is because people continue to find depth in the fact that it's such a physical experience.
Oh yeah. I think it's like the first game I played where when I got punched in the face, and not only that, it was the first time like being in 0G type feeling and floating around and not being able to stop running into an object. It literally mentally scared me. I dropped to the ground. I'm just like, what the freak? It was like the first time. Like, I did not have my VR legs at all yet. But there was a while when Havoc first started that we got word that the Switch just for VR gaming was going to be called VR Sports. That's why still sometimes you can find in Havoc stuff that we used to be called VR Sports Havoc and not VR Esports Havoc.
I have gotten into vicious debates over the fact that I'm trying to invent a term. I think that, you know, it'll be stylish in maybe a couple years. Maybe I'll be viewed as a bit of a prophet when it comes to the terminology.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I also like to distance it a little bit further from, you know, I really want to impress on people that virtual reality competitive play is, even compared to normal competitive play, again, I love Pancakes esports, don't get me wrong. But when you add that additional element of, yeah, you are burning calories, you are an athlete, you know, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. There's a reason why in boxing, you know, the later you get in the rounds, the more desperate that play becomes. And that, for me as a caster, that's where it gets really interesting too, because then you're not only playing into the actual movements that the player's doing on screen, but you're also playing into the social element. Virtual reality is a lot more social. There's a lot more grudges that happen in virtual reality. I feel like that's part of the reason why I've themed my events based on fight nights. And then the physicality of it too, you know, again, is this, especially I run a lot of double elimination brackets, and something you see a lot is winner gets knocked down and then has to go back up and fight the same person, but now it's a best of 7. Now there are 3 matches and the other person's gotten a full rest. And to see someone come back from that and manage to beat the main person and take the whole tournament by storm, some of the best moments in gaming for me personally have been in these tournaments that I have just as a spectator in my own tournaments.
So, and the one thing about that, and I've noticed, it's like, yeah, it is cool to be going undefeated to the championship. That is the best feeling to get there, but you are sitting there and waiting, and that's the one thing that stinks is because those people that are now rising to the top, and because you cannot lose in a double elimination when you're losers bracket, you have to build the momentum, and so when they finally get up to that championship, yeah, they might be the best team, but they're stale. Unless they were out, unless they were practicing the whole entire time, staying fresh. A lot of them don't. A lot of them, they have to go charge their headset really quick just in case. Who knows what they're doing? Are they going to go get a drink, go to the snack, go to the bathroom? And then these people, they have all this built-up momentum and all this energy. And I think like that takes a huge toll in the game dynamics because you can take one of the best players in the game and you could literally see momentum just like completely destroy people. And that's what I love about all of especially double elimination games. I prefer double elimination over anything.
I love me some double elimination tournaments. Let me tell you what, I'm a bit of a nerd when it comes to tournament structure because it's sort of how do I balance the player experience and the viewer experience and create these dramatic experiences.
Yeah.
And in double elimination tournaments, I am honestly asleep during half the winners matches. The losers match, the losers bracket, I live for the losers bracket because it's one more and you're knocked out completely. You're going to expect to go out 90% of the time in the winners bracket, but losers is where you expect to actually climb up the ranks. And again, seeing players go through multiple different upsets. We recently had a blast on tournament. By recently, I mean this weekend. The last chance qualifiers where there was a huge upset in the losers bracket. And then the guy ended up doing very, very well in the final match. But again, the highlight was the finals of the losers bracket, not necessarily the grand finals at the end of the day. And I really find that interesting how, double elimination forces you into those sorts of things. It also happens from match to match too. Again, when you're sweating, it's very easy to just mentally give up because you don't want to continue pushing your body anymore. And when you can actually see somebody emoting in virtual reality, that's a big part of it too. That goes for everything.
Yeah. That's the fun thing about VR is that it does bring a different emotional aspect because it's like in pancake gaming, if you're at home like these people are in VR, you don't get to see what they're doing at home. They could stand up and start going like this, and you'll never see that they did that. In VR, if you're in VR, just going, there's so many times where I'm scoring a goal, and I'm just all over the place, especially in Ultimax. I'll sit there, and I'll just be like, and people see me doing that, and it's just like, it's like I don't help it. I'm just really excited, and it's just like they get to see them. They're just like, all right, well, this guy's just dancing around like a fool. It's like, good job, you scored a goal on me.
Listen, the amount of times I have very poorly default danced in a lobby after getting a win. If that's a bannable offense, I'm sorry, you're gonna have to ban me because I can't stop that. That's a physical reaction of my body.
I just get happy dances.
Exactly, and it's again one of the things I really like about just VR gaming in general is the ability to physically see other people. I think at the end of the day, it actually causes people to be less toxic because you're not going to be as immediately vehemently against a random stranger if you can actually see that they are a human being like you. I feel like a lot, especially in games like League of Legends, where there's not a physical person to tie that to, it's so easy to just immediately start flaming them. In virtual reality, it's a little bit harder because that's a much more personal experience too. But yeah, especially in tournament play recently, players getting that momentum and really, just keeping it going and going and going and going and winning match after match in these crazy upsets. And then on the flip side, when players are getting nervous and they're getting tired, a lot of the times they'll try and switch to different tactics, which thus end up not working at all. And I feel like at those moments, those are where you really have to sit down and focus and use that mental fortitude that you have to have in all sports and say, okay, I've planned for this. I know what to do. I've practiced this. Now it's time for me to execute.
Yeah, yeah. And so this is the first time that I've for this past weekend when we did that 2v2 tournament that I kind of just like picked up a random person like so I'm part of Havoc and Pesky is part of Disorient. And so it was kind of fun finding someone that was outside of my organization and playing with him. And there was at times where he's just like, dude, we're both ball hogs. Like, we're both running around with our freaking, just like maniacs. He goes, we got to find some form of team dynamic here. And I go, all right, I'm just going to have to slow down and I also had like 50 energy drinks that day.
Oh no!
Probably not that. I had a very fun weekend, and it just my heart was all over the place, and I was just like in a zone. I don't know. I was like
just the straight G Fuel, just right out the den.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, yeah, it's blank. Put whatever esports drink that you're part of. If either it's Sneak, Dubby, who knows? I just drank it all. I just went and got all their free packages that you get and just started like putting them down. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna do this tournament. That was probably a horrible gesture to do on screen that I just did right there. But there's plenty of times where like I'm streaming and I'm playing Population 1 and I'm trying to do a banana really quick and like you're just trying to get this banana. You're just like, you know how many times my wife has walked in on me trying to eat a banana in Population 1 and it's never a good look. It's like, what are you doing in VR? Like, do I need to take the headset off and see what you're playing? Because you're doing some motions, dude.
But let me tell you, hats off to the Pop 1 devs. Again, sadly, I cannot play shooters and be decent at them at all. One of the most creative ways of implementing that sort of mechanic of healing. One of the most creative ways, because you're already doing those complex movements with all the reloads of the gun and stuff like that. Having to do that complex movement to heal makes perfect sense in context of the game's mechanics, and it's fucking hilarious.
Oh, why did it have to do a banana? And then you got over here, you got a shaker cup. You're just like this. You're just like really getting into it. You're just, like, and the worst part about
like that one SNL sketch.
Yeah, and the worst part about it is like sometimes you have to do these in some very extreme situations. Like you're like the last people around, and you're sitting there just freaking. It's like what in the world, like. And like I'll be sweating by the time I'm done, not because I'm stressed out shooting people. It's because I'm freaking shaking shaker cups and smashing bananas.
You'll be sweating by the time you're done.
Yeah, it's like jeez.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? You gotta wonder now. Now that you say it like that, you gotta wonder how much of that maybe was intentional from the developers.
I know.
They were like, you know what? We're gonna mess with these people.
Exactly. Let's see how many seasons we can get people just eating bananas and slurping juices and stuff.
Now you got to do the double shaker cup.
Exactly. But the funny thing about it though is that they made so many banana memes in the Facebook in their Facebook community they have. It is freaking hilarious.
My gosh.
Yeah, but Population 1 is where Havoc started, and that's because it will always be dear to my heart, and it's kind of sad that the community is just not in Population 1 alone has changed like throughout the 2 years that Population 1 has been around. It went from, that's where a lot of teams, if you look at a lot of teams that were even like at the Veil event, they started in Population 1 just like Havoc did. But then it's like I always tell people this. It's like as soon as they got bought by Facebook, it was just like kind of like a weird dynamic switch. And they still make a good game. They make really good content. They still have a pretty good following, but it's just like it doesn't have that home body feel anymore to it. But don't get me wrong. I still get on there and go hard on those bananas and shaker cups.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, Facebook is just, listen, Mark, don't come for me, all right? But they need to change how they're selling their headsets, and they really need to find, they need to retain much better software developers. I feel like every software developer worth their salt doesn't want to work for Facebook right now because of the public image. And like, that's understandable, but also that's clearly hurting their market share, It's always so strange to me because they put out, as far as the headset itself goes, Quest 2 out of the box is right now crazy far ahead as far as headsets go. And I know we were going to talk about the Pico 4 at some point. The Facebook Connect, the Meta the Meta Connect that's happening tomorrow.
Yeah.
But the Quest 2 is so mature with its features. Hand tracking works fairly well and now is starting to be integrated into a lot of different games.
Yeah, you see the new game that came out? It's the feature is pretty much take away your controller.
Oh, what is it called?
Crap! I knew you were gonna ask me that. I was hoping you knew. I was hoping you knew.
There we go. Cut this out.
I mean, there is no cutting out. We're live.
Tracking Meta. No, but we can cut it in post. What are you talking about? We can always cut it in post.
Cut it in post. We're live.
Yeah, cut it in post. You can't cut it in post.
Oh, you're talking about cut it within the thing. So only the people that get to watch this are seeing this live. But yeah, so I'll look that up. But I'll just have to spit it out eventually because I don't even remember if I can remember the name.
Okay, can I take a wild guess? Is it the one where you actually use like your handgun, like you use this and you shoot? Because I have seen that one.
No.
Oh no. Okay. Hold on a second here. This might actually be.
Hey, thanks for coming in. I was reading people's comments. I was hoping someone from the comment would be able to say it, but all they're saying, one person goes, "I know, but it's broken too." So I don't know. What that is.
Darn. But they're so far ahead, and they now even have augmented reality capabilities, and they're adding in stuff constantly all the time, which makes me scratch my head when I look at something like Horizon Worlds. Horizon Worlds is a fundamentally gross looking it's not even a non-functional game. It functions. It just has no purpose. Everything that you make looks like it could have been made better in Roblox at this point.
Yeah.
And yet they're pushing it so hard on so many different parts of their platform that me as a person who's invested in the space goes, Facebook, focus on the benefits of your headset. You can use a lot of different features and play a lot of different games out of the box. And if you want a personal trainer, it is by far the cheapest way to get consistent exercise right now. It is the most cost-effective way to exercise within the comfort of your own home. And I just don't understand why they wouldn't push that. Instead, they would push their first-party software.
Yeah. But do you think that even with the Pico 4 coming out, do you think that it will outbeat Meta if they don't kind of figure out like how their next direction is going to go? Because people are already kind of interested with the Cambria coming out, that they're already, especially for me as an esports player, and this might be completely different for the community, but me as an esports player, it kind of worries me that Meta is trying to make a shift to where they're like, VR is not for gaming. And I would hate for them to do that. But, like, you got Pico, and then you have things that are maybe going to come out, like the Deckard. We don't really have too much information on that. But those are going to be kind of mixed into VR gaming. But
right.
That's why I'm really interested for tomorrow on the Connect thing. And you brought up Horizon World. And I can't remember if I was reading an article, if it was I was watching. So I watch Mateo 311 a lot, and I on his stuff for his updates and stuff. And I almost feel like it was his video that I was watching that he said that a lot of the employees don't even want to be in Horizon World because it sucks so much. Like, have you heard that?
It doesn't surprise me. I wouldn't be surprised if they were talking about the Facebook meeting rooms. Because the Facebook meeting, there was another report that I did see recently that he's also been asking the same thing about the Facebook meeting rooms. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the employees that are working on those sorts of projects don't even own a VR headset. Because when they work in the office, they have it there. But yeah, I mean, I think that kind of stepping away from that, because I don't think it's necessarily, of course, as any sort of virtual reality developer, it's not like working on any other game. You really need to be fully immersed in what you're doing and keeping an eye on that throughout the entire duration of development. If you're a VR developer and you're listening to this, prototype early, prototype frequently, update frequently during the early stages of development, because you're going to want to do all that before you get into the later stages of development. But the Pico is interesting. The Pico, first of all, I feel like a lot of people don't know this, and I learned about it very recently. The company that makes the Pico is owned by ByteDance, which is the same people who own TikTok. So, keep that in mind, that this is definitely, this is an Eastern headset that's coming in, which I actually think is good. I think that that's a very underutilized market. The entirety of the Pacific is super, super underutilized as far as it concerns virtual reality. And I think the Pico has the capability there to take a lot of market share. As far as here in the States, I think that it's going to be a bit of a toss-up. People are talking on paper, they look very, very similar. People have been talking about the whole pancake versus how the Quest tracks and the ease 4K. Of using. And 4K. It's running off the same hardware, though, so don't expect any significant increases over the Quest. It does have 8 gigabytes of RAM, which is much better than 6 gigabytes of RAM, genuinely. I think that at the end of the day, if you already are interested in VR, but you were turned off by the fact that it's owned by Facebook and Facebook has a monopoly on it, you're going to go ahead and get a Pico instead. If you're just now buying a headset, it's cheaper, especially if you're in Europe. It's coming with all these, or at least it's saying that it's going to come at some point in the future with all these additional features. I'm reading right now that they were talking about the capabilities for this thing to have both finger tracking and eye tracking, which I will be impressed if it has it for that cost point. Then again, PSVR 2 is also coming out and has eye tracking and I believe finger tracking. It also has haptics in the headset, which I do find interesting. As far as Project Cambria, I think that what Mark really wants for that headset to be is it to be your solution to the work from home problem. I think that Mark wants to make your second space, as in the space that you go to work, he wants that to be in the metaverse. That way, it's much easier to make the transition into having your third space also be in the metaverse. And I think that Cambria is his way in. I don't think it's intended mostly for consumers. I think it's mostly intended for enterprise corporations who are wanting to co-work from remote locations. Because at the end of the day, you know what? Companies will already give you, especially if you're in tech, $500 to $1,000 for a laptop that they'll just go ahead and give to you as company property.
Yeah.
It's reasonable to understand that they would say, okay, cool, bring your own laptop. Instead, we're going to give you a headset. And that's what you're going to use to attend all your meetings.
So, and I know we don't really know the full deeds on Cambria. They'll probably go more into details. I think there's going to be a lot of news out tomorrow when this Connect happens that they're really probably going to dive into it. And we talked about this in the beginning of the podcast, is that I don't only think that they're going to talk about Project Cambria. I think that a lot of the leaks happen because I think that's where, like you said, that's the direction they want to go. And it's not a bad direction to go because enterprise resources, and not only that, I was talking to a lot of people, but not only will it go into enterprise resources, but it would also go into military resources and get military funded, which that's a lot of freaking money if they can get military deals with Cambria and people using these for those type of things. Like I always said, it's always better to not be wasting bullets and going into these, if you get a Cambria, they could put people into war rooms live and actually get them to actually experience things, so they're not just doing fake things shooting at dummies. They can actually have things coming at them and really understand, how to SWAT a room and stuff. But what I was getting into is I really think that they're also going to release the Quest 3. I think that they're going because, and the only reason why I say this, and a lot of people, they can say what they want on what I'm saying here, but we already got news, and I don't know why people aren't talking about it. We already have news that Meta Quest, I've almost said freaking Oculus, Meta Quest, they're releasing stores like Apple that you're going to go in there, and we already know that in these stores they're going to have eventually 5 different headsets. And they've already
you're right though. You're right.
They already talked about this.
You're right.
Why is no one going back to that?
I am going to challenge you because I did not hear that they were going to be full-fledged stores as of recent. What they're going to be is, when you go to Costco and there's the people there who are trying to sell you like solar panels and stuff like that. Well, in every single Costco, you have stands of Quest 2s. Mm-hmm. They've got tons of Quest 2 starter packs that you can go ahead and get. What they were talking about, I believe, was setting up demo sections in big box stores like Walmart and Costco and allowing people to try it and having a couple different headsets. That could have been changed. I don't necessarily know, especially right now with the state of VR, if they would want to still go through and do physical stores. Mm-hmm. I mean, it really does make sense. What you're saying makes sense because, again, Cambria. So the key features of Cambria. Because I went ahead and I looked this up just to make sure that I was familiar with that. Color pass-through. They're really stressing the color pass-through. And this is sort of the transition, I feel like, from VR to AR. That's the number one thing that has been at least confirmed from the leaks. That's the number one thing that they've talked about as a focus. Better tracking, facial tracking, stuff like that. Also, we know the stuff that they talked about in the last Meta Connect. They talked about stuff like full house tracking, where you're able to bring a lot more items from the real world into the virtual world. The example that they used was like, you can bring your remote into virtual reality. And that way, like, you can see it and utilize it without having to take off your headset. Like, it's partially pass through. It's partially actually putting a 3D model into your world and using it. So I think that, again, those sort of soft features halfway between hardware and software, I think that's what Meta really is good at. And I think that that's what they need to continue to keep doing to keep up with headsets that are coming out like the Pico, like the PSVR 2. I guess HTC sadly hasn't put out anything I'm really interested in recently, but like the Deckard that's inevitably going to come out. And then also the dark horse of them all, the VR headset that Apple is currently working on. I am not sleeping on the VR headset. I am not sleeping on the headset that Apple puts out because
I'm not either. I'm a huge Apple fan.
Yeah, and in my mind, they're very lifestyle focused. The only Apple product that I own is this MacBook Pro sitting in front of me. That is very nice, and I do love it very much. But they want you to buy the phone, the watch, and they want them all to work together. So thinking about what that actually means for a potential Apple VR headset, I'm thinking of something a lot more lightweight, like with AR capabilities right off the bat, and for an exorbitant price. This is something that I would fully expect someone to pay over $1,000 for.
I think they already have a price range.
Huh?
I think they already set a price range.
Ooh.
I'm pretty sure that they said it. The people are thinking $2,000. I'm almost positive that it was.
Oh my gosh, you're right. Between 2,000 and 2,500, my dude.
Yeah.
Again, if they're charging that much, this is not going to be a blindfold that you put on, right? If Cambria is charging $800 just to have color pass through, given you can assume that Apple's going to double the price of any hardware that it comes out with. But I also trust Apple to come out with really high quality hardware. The Quest 2 had to raise prices, and I feel like it was because they were using absolutely garbage components in their headsets and just kind of pushing them out the door. I think that, like, especially people who were playing Blast On, there were like 3 or 4 people who were returning headsets every week because they were just blowing through the mics, the headphones, even sometimes the physical sensors themselves, and having to work with, Facebook to get those repaired. I think that Apple will come out with something that doesn't even resemble most of the VR headsets on the market. And Apple also has the experience with sustaining first-party applications and a thriving user marketplace. And I think that that's what Facebook wanted to do. They wanted to corner the market, and they wanted you to give them the money if you wanted to buy games. And Apple has come in and taken people's lunch so many times with the app marketplace. I think that that's where they see value. I think they see value in having that marketplace thriving, up and running, having new developers constantly come in and come out with new stuff, and having high quality first-party applications that you can only get on their headsets. So, those are the 5, including the Deckard, which sadly we don't know anything about the Deckard at all, or at least I don't. You might.
No, I've seen small details on it. I've watched multiple videos of people talking about it and putting their own spin on it. And I know a few people that are in the nose of like actual things that I could not say. So but I do know that there are plans of good things within like not even like say a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's happening in the next 5 years. I'm thinking like good things are gonna happen by like 2023. Like 2023 is gonna be a good year for VR, and not only that, but it's almost Christmas again, and we're about to have another huge spike of people getting Oculuses again. And I'm really yeah exactly, which we definitely love, but I'm honestly very interested on the dynamic switch that may happen now that the Pico came out, but a lot of people with the Pico 4 that came out, a lot of Americans have trouble buying things, especially a company that's owned by TikTok, where Americans already had TikTok issues where we almost completely removed TikTok from the App Store for all of the United States. So I don't know a lot of people know this, but Pico 4 is owned by TikTok. That's who owns it and who's making it. And it's just
and I mean, and you're talking about a device with 4 cameras on it too. Like the whole reason that TikTok was going to get removed because it takes user information. You don't think that they're shipping that back off so that our great and glorious leader can go ahead and look at everybody, have his cameras everywhere in the US? I don't really think that's happening. Just saying. I don't think that Facebook is currently looking in your home. I think they might be taking some data about it. And I don't think the Pico will either. But stuff like the dimensions of your room, some personal information about you, like for example, how much you're willing to spend on virtual reality games or in-game microtransactions. That's all very useful information for those algorithms. And hey, who knows? Maybe VR will be pushed more on TikTok, which honestly could be even bigger than just having the headset come out either way. I think that people in the know will go ahead and buy the Pico if they're looking to get another headset right now. I think people who, parents buying VR headsets for their children are probably still going to go for the Meta Quest.
Even with the price increase?
Even with the price increase, I think. I think at that point, because this is, and I could be definitely wrong here, but it does seem like most of their market is focused right now in the EU region. And it also does, there's a lot of games that have not yet been confirmed for the Pico 4. Like, for example, Ultimex was actually technically a launch title for it. And I'm sure that it'll come eventually, but Blaston's actually not on the headset right now. So, I think there will be a bit of transition, but, as far as people who are getting new PSVR headsets, I see no reason why you wouldn't go for the Pico 4 at this point, considering that it seems to be a little bit easier to use. And that's also what interests me a lot about the Deckard. Because, I own a Steam Deck. I have used it. I actually really, really like it. I know that it got some mixed reviews right off the bat, but I use it both as a standalone machine and also as essentially a stream machine for my main gaming rig, so I can play wherever in the house. But they did a funny trick with it, where it runs on Linux, but it can run almost any Windows game that you need it to. There's very little compatibility issues. And I think that if they manage to do the same with that, and open up the floodgates of the Steam PSVR marketplace, it's hard, but imagine a headset where you can play VR, run, live, and stream all on the same device.
And that's kind of what the Deckard's supposed to do.
Yeah, exactly. And so the idea of that coming out, for me, that's what I'm waiting for. I'll switch off of Meta when that comes out, and I can do that all on one device, because that would be truly incredible. Right now, obviously, at this point, though, we are deep deep in the weeds of speculation, sadly. But I think one thing can be said for sure: 2023 is definitely going to be a good year for VR. And once these headsets really start to make their way into the marketplace, I think that we're going to see a lot of people picking up VR for the first time, but also a lot more people doing some of the other stuff with VR. You know, a lot more developers being able to put in the features like eye and finger tracking that maybe it was like, hey, why would we spend the time and energy to put this into our game if it's only going to be a 1% of the marketplace that's willing to spend the extra money to get that as an exterior peripheral? Well, now, okay, everyone with the Pico can do that. Everyone with a PSVR 2 can do it. And then you'll start to see a lot more developers seeing the ROI on putting those sorts of features into their game. And that's what really excites me at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, I go ahead and ramble really quick because I just realized I didn't charge my computer's not charging right now.
That's
like,
inconvenient.
1 second.
Just cool.
Let me give you a topic. Let's see.
Give me a sponsor.
A sponsor?
Yeah, give me a sponsor.
What do you mean give you a sponsor?
I don't know. Give me a sponsor.
Like talk about one of them?
Yeah, sure.
All right. Talk about Oolong VR. I'll be right back.
All right, cool. Time to. Okay, so we were talking a lot about the difference between VR, esports, and V-sports. But you know what the worst part about playing shooters like Contractors and Pavlov and stuff like that? It's the fact that you've got to awkwardly hold the second controller kind of out here freely in air. That always messes me up. I'm sure that is something, especially as you get further into play, that becomes really important. Which is why I'm thankful for our sponsor today, Oolong VR. Oolong VR makes high quality VR accessories, including these beautiful VR gun stocks. They are fairly reasonably priced, actually. Okay, I'm looking at some of these models right now. Yeah, they got silicone grips. They've got all sorts of peripherals for sale. It all looks very high quality. They even have a Master Chief virtual reality gun stock, which is actually super, super cool. Did not know about this at all. Do we have a link? We have a link for our viewers today.
Yeah, in the description.
Cool. So check the link in the description. You're going to get some undiscerning % off and also free shipping for US orders over $50. Which is basically just looking at their website for one of these gun stocks is basically free shipping. So there you go. I'm looking for more information. Do you have one of these?
Yeah.
Cool. I got one question for you. How do you like the weight of
it? It is definitely, if you like immersive feeling, it's definitely an eye opener. Like. And like, so even like J-Bar, I don't know if you've seen his stream.
Oh shoot, I love J-Bar. Yeah. He uses these.
Yeah. So his team is also sponsored by Oolong, and he adds weight to it.
Oh,
he's a maniac, dude. He gets as immersive as possible.
He does. He really does. Yeah. So thank you, Oolong VR, for sponsoring this podcast and now sponsoring me. Oh my gosh, J-Bar's on the website.
Yeah.
And he's holding a gun to my face. Oh, this has got to become an emote now. I'm gonna find the source of this website where that image resides, just to get the highest quality version.
I'll send it to you.
Do it, please. It will be an emoji on my server later today.
You know how I stripped your face out and cut it all out? I did that I stripped his out too. So
very nice.
Because I had him on a podcast like 3 episodes ago, I think.
Nice. Yeah, he does a lot of competitive stuff too. So. Awesome. Speaking of, speaking of competitive VR shooters, okay, we should talk a little bit about Veil too.
We'll talk about Veil.
We just had that huge, and you said that you were something. No, I was watching VR Central earlier. He was talking about how you went there and actually came down with something, and so I hope you're feeling better. He does seem like he's feeling better. But that was probably the biggest VR event that happened in the last couple months, and the prize pool for that game was crazy.
Yeah. So $35,000. It's the biggest one that's happened and I think they're chalking it down to the biggest one ever right now. But they're the biggest one they've had a long time ago was in 2018. They've had a lane event also for NEPA, but there was no prize pool. It was just a lane event, a tournament for the NEPA Pro Series for the first one for a charity. So they had that, and so this was the second lane from when COVID started, and so it was a whole entire tournament. I think they had like upwards from like 200 freaking players, and so they had all this ranking out. Havoc had a team as well. Ours was a very fast put together team, and we're definitely working on that team for the next year's Veil. But 4 teams went down there, and I'm gonna freaking I only okay. Let me see if I can remember them. So we have Vortex, who won it. Obviously, that one's an easy one to know. We had Cobra Cartel, which has been around since Population 1. I believe Strive, and then there was one more that I just don't think I've ever seen them. That's why I can't think of their freaking name. But the one thing that kind of bugged me is that when the whole Veil thing happened is that I can't find a bracket. I've talked about it now. This is the 3rd podcast that I've talked about, and I can't find the full bracket.
I'm 90% sure it was on their website. No, you know what? It was on the website for the organization that actually ran the event. So it's not like a formal bracket or anything like that. Because I knew enough that I looked into it, because I was like, wow, that's a lot of money. So I looked into what format they were running and stuff like that. I was kind of in the middle of a hurricane when it happened. So I was not able to. A lot of people were. That was fun. Trying to fly down in the week before the hurricane, I'm sure was tons of fun for the people who participated. And let me actually see if I can look up that. But my question to you is, again, someone who doesn't play a lot of VR shooters, especially, what is the special sauce with this game? It came out of it came out of nowhere. They're offering these huge prize pools. Even when the game wasn't even formally released, they were doing these gigantic prize pools, and I'm just over here like, wow, I'm giving people $10 gift cards to Crumble Cookies as rewards for my tournament. But you could be winning $10,000 over here with this game.
Mm-hmm. So, and not only this, I don't know if you knew this, but Veil is still an alpha.
It's still an alpha.
Technically,
so it's not even beta.
Alpha.
It's an alpha.
That's last I heard. I thought I told someone it was still in beta, and someone corrected me and said alpha. And so I don't, either I'm wrong or they're wrong, but I'm pretty sure because the person who told me that is in the Veil Discord all the time. So. I'm almost positive that it's still an alpha, but the thing is that it is only PC VR. They're not focusing on the Oculus aspect, so they really got to make the game really freaking beautiful. And that's the thing. If you see their guns that they have, they've spent so many hours on really making these guns they're beautifully developed weapons in this game. I don't think I've ever seen a better looking gun at all in a game like that. And so I know the biggest issue that I thought they were going to have is that making updates before the tournament. I'm just like, you guys can't be making anything extreme to be throwing these players off. And I think the changes that they did add were positive things, with shading, making people understand who's enemy, who's not. The good thing is that even in the stage that they were at, they had the tools to already, be castable, to actually make it a physical esports thing. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but the CEO is Tropical, which is probably the most lovable CEO in probably VR right now. I don't know if anyone that's watching this podcast has not seen his video where he's wearing a Tropic Thunder jersey and calling out all the VR, not even VR devs, any dev, to verse him in their own games. I thought that was the greatest video I've ever seen in my life, just because it was this guy is a dev CEO, he's supposed to be professional, and all of a sudden it's no, why do I have to be this image that I'm not? I love playing video games. This game is freaking awesome. I'm going to show it and be, and so I think that it really threw people off on his personality, that he was oh, this guy isn't just some freaking CEO schmuck that just wants to make a game and sell it. He's actually part of the community. He's given it was to the point where it's he started a Patreon to where it's like so many people have Patreon like help us make the game free. And so for the longest time I was a Patreon person too, just like until they finally was like, yeah, we can finally make it free. I'm like, all right, cool.
Dang.
And then I give them the support as much as I can. But I just think that they're doing a phenomenal job over there, you know. And I think what they created is definitely a starting point for what people might see for a AAA game. You know?
Okay. Dang.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. Right from the horse's mouth. There you go. Yeah, that's good to hear, honestly, because again, seeing it from the outside, it's definitely generated a lot of buzz. And I mean, especially the people in my circles, you know, whether or not you're there just for the prize pool, it attracts a lot of eyes when you start to have numbers that go up that high. And, you know, I don't think that, you know, anyone can quit their day jobs just yet. I certainly can't. And I got to do that before I can offer you guys prize pools that allow you to quit your day jobs. But you know, he's getting. I mean, if he has support from the community, there you go. That kind of explains.
Well, his game was pretty much made because of the community. He didn't even have a game because he was also on the podcast as well. So if you ever want to watch his podcast,
there you go.
It was a really good one. And basically what he said is that a lot of the funding that he got, he didn't have a game yet. It was just an idea. And then finally, he's like, COVID happened, and he's like, we finally sat down and made a game. So I guess one good thing out of COVID is that you got a really good game, you know?
Honestly, that's another thing too right now. It is not easy to make any game, and it is certainly not easy to make a VR game. But I do feel like we've seen a lot of smaller developers take that risk in VR and really make some incredible things. Because again, designing a game in virtual reality is fundamentally different from designing a pancake game. And thus, normal game design aspects just sometimes do not work in virtual reality at all. One of the things I was super excited for Bone Labs. I never really played through Boneworks. I downloaded it as soon as I could. My internet was knocked out from the hurricane, so I couldn't download it on the Thursday it came out. But I downloaded it as soon as possible. I started playing it. And the first time that something jumped towards me, my face right here, I panicked, swung, and with a baseball bat and slammed into my wall.
Oh, really?
And it hurt, and I had to stop playing because I just immediately sent such a shockwave of fear. And there was at one point where it was like in a box or something, and it was like the AI wasn't making it jump out, and I was like,
"Oh,
yeah." Not to say that that game doesn't work. That's actually a game where, you know, they really put a lot of time and energy into thinking what makes this different. What can we add that makes this a better experience for our players? And they've really set the foundation too for some amazing things coming out. So hopefully, and I think at the end of the day, it is. Vale's kind of doing that for shooters. It's setting this new standard about what these games can be. And, you know, the focus on VR esports too is great right off the bat.
Yeah, about that game, there was times where I got too excited murdering people, because I had two swords in my hands, two little knives, and it was really exciting. But like I have it on my stream because I did a part 1 and a part 2 of playing the whole game through. And I just remember that I was just like, got these little knives. And I didn't even use a gun half the time. I'm just like, stab you, double stab you. And then I was walking around. All of a sudden I turn a corner. And like, they don't make any noise. They just kind of like go at you like this. And there was one time where I got so freaked out. I had these two knives in my hand. And I just go, Gah! And I look up and he's just completely gutted.
Crucified.
Just crucified. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, dude. I apologize to him. He's dead. I'm just like, I didn't mean to kill you. It's just like, we could have talked about it. You would have still died eventually, but at least we could have made some content out of it.
Yeah. Jeez. And this was in Bone Labs, right?
Yeah, this was Bone Labs. There was a guy, before we get off Bone Lab, that they need to go make his freaking TikTok famous right now. It's probably the greatest Bone Lab video that I have seen to date. And so basically, you know how they always come out with these crazy things of killing people, and like they'll slap them around and stuff like that. Let me see if I can hurry up.
Yes, LS Toast. I am familiar with his videos.
I wonder if it's him or not.
It might be. He does a lot. He does a lot of stuff on the TikTok, although he has been taking a bit of a break.
Oh, really? They just make, man, this game literally just gives. Of course, my phone doesn't want to work while we're freaking looking this up. My freaking service, like the stream, like when we were talking, was lagging, and I couldn't figure out why it was like off a little bit. It was like driving me nuts. That's why half time I'm just like, why is it doing this? It was because my thing wasn't charging, so it was like definitely freaking out on that. Okay, so his name is it's just Joa VR. Is that right?
Joa VR.
Joeah VR.
Joya.
And it's on TikTok. You'll have to look it up. It already has 1.2 million views. It has 7,159 comments and 100,000 like saved, and then 42,000 sent. It's called "I Think I Broke His Back" at the end there, and it's probably the most glorious Bone Lab TikTok I've seen today. So if people haven't seen that yet, 100% recommend looking that up, because I was sitting there just like, this is great. I freaking love every bit of this right now.
There we go. I found him.
You found him?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep, I found him.
So you have to let me know how you think about that video. It's called "I Think I Broke His Back" at the end.
Yeah, and especially, you know what, Bone Labs right at the end there too was adding crazy stuff like Spider-Man mods and stuff like that. So God knows what we're going to get now that they've essentially less so released a game and more so released a game engine. And they were just like, go have fun with this. Go make stuff, guys. We'll come back.
Yeah, and I gave it a 7.4 of my rating. It was what I gave. It was playable. I loved it, but it's only for people that play VR. And that's just my opinion. Just because I play very high-level esports gaming to where I am moving sometimes at a very fast pace and I don't get sick. But when I was free-falling down that freaking elevator, I almost shit my pants, you know?
Yeah.
And then I flipped the go-kart, and that was terrifying too. That was flipping the go-kart was probably the scariest thing I've ever done in my life in the VR so far, because I almost literally just like flipped it and I instantly fell forward. I'm just like, no, you're in real life, dude. And you're sitting there, and I'm like this in the freaking game, and I'm just like, how do I get out? And like I have a video where I'm like trying to get out, and I dropped the gun on the ground. I'm just like, no, get back in my pocket.
Incredible. Yeah. I need to complete my playthrough. Jeez. Yeah. As far as games that are coming out, so there's that. I was privy to the beta of Broken Edge recently. So obviously very under NDAs right now, but I can definitely talk about what is currently present in the trailers. And overall, I'm very impressed with both the look of that game and its fundamental mechanics.
What's it called?
It's called Broken Edge. It is a sword fighting game in VR. I feel like I can talk about the generals, but I can't talk about the specifics. Essentially, the object of the game is it's an actual more realistic sword fighter. So the other sword fighting game I do is Iron Lights. Iron Lights is very based off of flow and based off of kind of these subtle change ups that you can do. And then on defense, it's about really predicting where your opponent's going to swing and manage your blocks and then getting counterattacks when you can with ranged attacks. With Broken Edge, it was very much so. First of all, another game that's very in real life, especially having play space in front of you. I was playing a class that had a rapier, and I was physically lunging at my opponent to try and close the distance really quickly to get in some damage.
What's it called?
Broken Edge.
No, what you just said, the word before. A rapier?
A rapier. A rapier?
Never heard of it.
You've never heard of a rapier? A rapier is a sword.
Oh, I learn something every day.
It's a fencing foil.
Okay, so it's just one of those little toothpicks.
Yeah, you could say that. There you go. I just put the Wikipedia article in the chat. what a rapier is. But yeah, and the devs were really engaged. Not so engaged that I didn't get away with posting my Discord link in their server for a couple hours until they told me that I was being a very naughty boy and had to take it down. But the event that I ran
Discord link.
Yeah, a lot of devs go through these betas and they don't want to start off stuff too soon.
Yeah.
And specifically, I talked with them before about it. I was like, hey, a lot of people are interested in me running an event. Can I run an event for the game? Would you mind also creating a channel in your Discord so that I could go ahead and do this? And how I run events via Discord is very simple. I go ahead, I post a sign up, you react to the sign up, you add your name to the sign up. Then when I actually start my check-ins, I post, and then if you react to the post, I go ahead and flip it from a circle to a check mark. And I tried to mention everyone in the server, and then the bot said that I was a very naughty boy and I couldn't mass mention. And I was like, well, I actually can't run this tournament on your guys' Discord, so I'm going to have to go to mine real quick. But, very explicitly was like, hey, guys, you can't, there's going to be no stream. You are actually legally not allowed to stream this game right now.
Under NDA.
I do not want to hear about your under NDA. I am not. Just go play the matches. But I mean, this is their second one. They did an alpha, and this is the beta. So that should be coming out. Again, I don't know specific dates, but the game definitely is nearing completion. I would be very surprised if it didn't come out before the holiday season, for sure. And it looks platforms? Beautiful. All platforms? Yes. Oh, yes. Yes. That I can say for sure. Definitely PC, VR, and Quest. I do not know about PSVR. Now that we have to kind of factor that into the conversation here.
Yeah.
Yep. Get ready to learn a third platform that you have to port to, guys. Yay.
Exactly.
It's got haptics in the headset though, guys, so that when you get a headshot in the game, the headset just knocks you out.
I'm ready for that. I actually talked about to people about having real life tournaments, not where you're dying and getting shot and you're being murdered or anything, but you get something like the B haptics vest, and right now it's just like vibrations. You could feel it. It's a sensation. I wanted to get to a point where you're in a tournament on the live stage playing a game like Veil, and when you get shot, it shocks the living crap out of you.
You get shot like you did just get shot through a bulletproof vest.
Because I wanted to like phase you. Like you take a hit and you're just like, oh my god, and it'll affect the gameplay because in that type of game, it takes more than just one bullet to kill you. So it's like, if you get a graze wound, you're going to be like, oh, come here. Yeah, I think it'd be an interesting, but it would only be for the most extreme of VR players. Before I forget, there's someone that has asked, have you ever played Valkyrie?
Oh my gosh, it's D1. It's D1. Hi, D1.
D1.
Have you ever played Eva Valkyrie?
No, I'm looking at it right now.
No.
Wait.
The game's shut down. You can't play it anymore. I'm so sorry. Yep. So sorry. CCP's one heck of a stinker. They made Spark and they made Valkyrie and they shut them both down on the same dates. And for Valkyrie, it actually sucks because there's like a whole single player mode that could have kept going. Mm-hmm. And actually you just can't log in now. So the whole game's gone.
Gotcha.
Really unfortunate. Rest in peace, Dust 514. That's all I have to say to D1 here. He'll know what I'm talking about. Rest in peace, Dust.
That's funny.
Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. I think that's really all the upcoming stuff that's coming out, unless I'm missing something. We did talk a lot about Ultimax. Ultimax is free to play. If you haven't tried it yet,
that's my main game right now.
Yeah, it is Rocket League meets ARMS in virtual reality, which if any of those words interest you, to go download the game. It's free. I don't need to tell about that. And I think that's really it for the release radar coming out here and heading into spooky season.
Yeah, and speaking of spooky season, that's another thing I want to talk about. So it's like, have you played any like Phasmophoria, or I think that's how you say it, or like any of like
Phasmophobia?
We have Phasmophoria. I knew I said it wrong. I was like, that doesn't sound right. I'm just gonna go with it until he corrects me.
Phasmophobia is weird for me because it's a roguelike horror game, and you know, first it is horrifying when you get into it because you don't know what's going on, and all the mechanics are just a little bit fuzzy, meaning that they do the horror thing where they have a lot of red herrings. So especially like a lot of the stages are, even when you start turning on lights, just have a lot of shadows and have a lot of darkness to them. And that's just 2D pancake gaming. Putting on a VR headset and going in is even worse. However, the better you get at the game, the more you start to recognize its major mechanics, specifically with haunts. Ghosts can scare you, but they can't actually hurt you unless they're going to kill you. So if you can recognize, like, okay, that's just a scare, guys. It's just a scare. It's just building up the tension. It almost is like when you go into a haunt in a VR headset, I just kind of have to throw up my hands and be like, okay, guys, I'm dead. I'll see you. I'll see you at the end of the round. Have fun. Because I can't get away. I can't maneuver in VR. Yeah. There are some people who have done it. Heritage and Scrublord, who have been on my Phasmophobia streams, have done it before and just absolutely broken the ankles of a ghost in VR. That's funny. But it's almost like, the thing that Phasmophobia really does is that it's really fun when you're like with other people and there's proximity chat and, you're just laughing and goofing around, and then their voices fade off, and then you're all alone. And maybe you're having to like talk to the ghost on the radio, and there's a 90% chance it's not going to work because it's a talk box, and that's always a very rare thing. But you have to be alone, and you're asking the ghost questions like, "Are you there? Can you hear me?" And then it starts a haunt, and then all the lights go out, and then you've got a ghost chasing you. Definitely one of the most horrifying experiences that I have had in any game ever in my life. And partially that's because of the sort of generative quality of the game, especially in VR. Even taking out VR, that's a spooky game. That's spooky. They've even added more features recently.
Yeah, I've learned really quickly, because I don't even watch scary movies. It takes a lot for me to watch a scary movie even. And I was playing a game that had a lot of jump scares in it, and I literally was terrified for my life. Like, my heart, and I was like, I had to hold a flashlight, and my hand was shaking because I was so terrified in this VR game. It made me feel things in VR where I'm just like, this is like, I'm gonna have freaking nightmares tonight. Like, this is 100% giving me nightmares tonight. I'm trying to remember that I saw another TikTok today with Techman Jew. He and another one that's part of his like esports team. They both did videos of a scary stream as well, and even watching their stuff, I'm like, I would be terrified, 100% terrified.
Yeah. I outside of Phasmophobia, I don't do any other horror stuff in VR. I just can't handle that sort of stuff. It's almost strange. Phasmophobia is one of the few pieces of horror media that I can regularly consume and just be perfectly fine. Horror's kind of like that, though. It always surprises yourself with horror, where sometimes you watch someone else do it and you go, oh, I couldn't possibly do it. And then you get there and you're like, oh, this isn't too bad. I'm scared shitless, but it's not too bad. I'm still here.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah, it's like, but still, it's like, it's so freaking real that sometimes it's just like your brain has a really hard time saying, hey, it's not. Because even if you're watching something on the big screen, there's still suspense where it's like you start hearing the, like the freaking noises that are just like pitches that start messing with your heart and making you feel emotions. And all of a sudden it's just like, boom, it's like, okay.
Yep.
All right, let's not do that. So, yeah, I wonder, and I don't know, like, have they made a really good scare game for Oculus yet?
I mean, I gotta imagine that they have. Again, it's not usually what I
besides like a zombie. But I'm talking about like
yeah. The one thing I can think of, I mean, the real big one, I hate to say it, Five Nights at Freddy's for VR. That does. Playing that. I don't even like the normal Five Nights at Freddy's things. And like, listen, I'm beyond confused how a bunch of like children in the mid 2010s was just like, cool, this is now our culture. This is a scary game. animatronics eating people. I'm pretty sure. And you know, like the VR version is just as scary as the rest of it. The cool thing about the VR version though is that it actually has every single game. So you can play every single game in the VR version of Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's terrifying.
I think that's pretty cool.
It's definitely pretty cool. I'm trying to remember if I thought I played the game. Is there a Neighbor VR?
I don't think so.
Maybe I was just playing it on my PC. Yeah, I think maybe, but that'd be a good one to play VR because you have that old man chasing you the whole entire time, and you just get into like some dark, scary stuff. But so like with your with Fight Night, the one thing that I do like about it is that it is just like spontaneous. You know, it's scheduled every weekend, but it's just like you're not going to get the same people every weekend because some people have a week. You know, I can't get every Saturday free. You know, but the people you do, so you don't always get the same taste of people every single time. It's like this Saturday might be easier, and then you have a Saturday where you have freaking 24 and they're just freaking being a freaking maniac. You know, you have things like that.
Yep.
But like the one thing, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's one of the primary complaints actually, is because the bot has a tendency of matching up the same people over and over and over again because there's a little bit of matchmaking there. People are like, man, especially in some things like Iron Lights or Blast On, or in this case Ultimax, man, I gotta go up against 24 every single weekend that he's here. But yeah, sorry, what were you saying?
So
But yeah, I would rather have an event that it goes okay 50% of the time than not have events at all. And I think that you really, you know, again, especially for fledgling games that are just starting to build up a community, you can have a big event and have that one big event and then have nothing else and have no sustainment. I think it's the smaller meetups that are good to, you know, keep people engaged in the community, but also give other players an in and set, you know, really introduce them to the space. Because a player that comes to Fight Nights is much more likely to then start signing up for any tournament, not just mine. You know, we've got the VR Party League tournament that's happening starting next Monday. And, you know, I'm not saying that my a tournament ended up getting more people for theirs, but people who play in smaller events like Fight Nights do eventually end up joining the bigger events. And it's a good place for players to come out, especially in games like Blast On or Iron Lights, where there are a selection of classes that you can learn. You know, it's good for players to come in and say, well, you know, this isn't as serious as other things. You know, I usually don't play Scourge, or I usually don't play Titan. I'm going to go ahead and play that in this Fight Nights just to go ahead and give it a try. So it's very nice. There's also technically secret mechanics to Fight Nights. There is the challenge system, which is pretty interesting. Essentially, you can challenge other players and wager a point on your match. Really? Yeah, there's a lot of things. People don't read the rules. There's a lot of stuff that happens. Again, it's just a bot. You just show up and play. That's the fantastic thing. You don't need to know any of the rules. When you get pinged, you're going to go do a match, and I'm hopefully going to stream it. And the bot does all of the scorekeeping and everything else in the background. But yeah, there's a system where you could challenge people, and then the bot will actually prioritize that matchup. And so usually, you know, especially if you have a lot of people who are in a certain time slot, that's a guaranteed way to go up against one specific other person. But again, it does require you to go ahead and wager a point, which you only usually get 1 point per win. So it's sort of this gambit of like, I want to go ahead and challenge this person because I want to play them.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I don't want to have to lose a point. So I'm actually currently working on an update to the bot. I want to start doing team events, and I want to start doing much more casual events, allow other people to actually use the bot outside of me. It's slow going right now. I essentially ran into a thing where I have to reprogram my entire bot because the library was updated. It's my fault. It is my fault because I'm a garbage programmer, and I knew that this update was coming back in April. And I said, I'll update my bot before then. And then I didn't. And now I'm like, oh, geez, now that I want to actually restart development, I have to reprogram everything.
The new update's better, though, just to let you know.
It is. Oh, it is. And they do stuff like change how asynchronous functions work, which my entire bot is built off of. So now I have to change like
Yeah.
the default loading in and loading out
Mm-hmm.
functions of my bot, which cool guys. I mean, you did make it more efficient at the end of the day, but the fact that I
Yeah.
haven't looked at any of these things in like almost 6 months time, and I'm now going back trying to every weekend program just a little bit and a little bit, I'm like, most of
Yeah.
it's done, but
So
it's
far,
the
what I've read.
matchmaking that I have to work on.
Yeah, and like so far, what I've read is that the old way that you programmed it, you should be a cakewalk right now with this new system that they set up. That is just it's. I was reading an article and someone was like, "Thank God," but he's like, "I have this bot that eventually I'm going to have to bring over." He's like, "I really don't want to." So
yeah, well, and specifically the library I use is Discord Pi. It's great. It's open source. The people who the person who maintains that entire library is single-handedly lifting up a whole bunch of Discord bots right now. So I appreciate their efforts. But Discord did this thing where they said, hey, all bots now have to have interactions with slash commands, and we're going to go ahead and kind of force our Discord API a little bit more. And that forced a lot of frameworks to have to completely redesign how their bots were built out. So like, again, I knew that this was coming like a year ago, realistically. And it's just, once you go and you make the thing and you use it to work, it does work every week. It's very hard. When I talk to people in my personal sphere outside of this, I do say with my events, sometimes it does feel like I'm treading water. I show up every weekend, I do the event, and then I go back to my normal day job during the week. And it's very hard for me to find the time sometimes to edit videos and, really work on the bot, try to focus on the future rather than on the present. But, at the end of the day, if people are coming and playing in my events, I'm happy. Doesn't matter how many viewers I'm getting. It doesn't matter how well my TikToks do, my Tiki-Talkies or my YouTubes. Everything is there to try and get more people back into the events themselves. If people are playing in my events, doesn't matter if it's 4 people, doesn't matter if it's 40. In fact, 40 might not actually be good, but for bigger tournaments, yes, please do continue to join up till the 40-person mark. That would be incredible. But yeah, more events. If you're at all interested, it's a space that you can get into today if you wanted to. There's nothing stopping you. The police will not stop you from running backstreet tournaments like I do. So you can go ahead and get started today.
Yeah, and your Discord's in the description. So if anyone that is new to this and is interested in doing some of these tournaments, just click on that Discord link and go in there. Everyone's very friendly in there. But I did want to ask you, like, why don't you have like any of the mainstream first-person shooters, like Contractors, for instance?
So a lot of it is just because right now the format, especially the default format for the bot, gets very, very messy as soon as you go outside of 1v1.
You can 1v1s. People love 1v1s.
Oh, really? Then in that case, it could just be my personal experience with those sorts of things. I do see the standard like 5v5 tournaments happening, I believe, at least for Pavlov. And 1v1s and shooters, I'm sure, are a thing. I don't have enough experience with them to play. But again, Iron Lights was a game where I had no experience with it. And then people just started coming to me and saying, hey, play this game. And I was like, okay. And I was like halfway decent with it. I'm like, at least I can cast this. And that's kind of the thing too. Even if I like being good at games that I cast, because it lends me a little bit of a credibility.
Yeah.
I don't want to be an absolute scrub and start picking up a game. With VR shooters, it's just kind of different because, again, it's so far out of my mechanical expertise. Having to then get used to having to do this in a game, for whatever reason, it's very, very, very hard for me. Even trying to like aim down the scopes, and I know that there's like a whole thing with your dominant eye versus your non-dominant eye that could be messing around with that.
Yep.
But yeah, very difficult for me to play. At the end of the day, if it's a 1v1 format, Fight Nights can run it. For stuff that doesn't get run via that, usually I rely on sites like Challenge. But part of what I'm working on right now is the ability to integrate more with sites like Challenge. That way I can take some of the processing power off of the bot itself.
Yeah, and so like the one thing for you saying like, yeah, it has a hard time going past a 1v1 situation. Why like, why would you even have to put more players in it? Why can't you just have a captain and know that the team's going to show up?
That's good too. At the end of the day, it's
You
just
just need one
something
person
that,
in there.
yeah. And it also sort of opens up the question too of why don't I could have other people run my events for me.
Yeah.
And there's who, again, part of what I'm wanting to work on now is ways to give the people who are in my community the ability for, hey, you want to run an event Saturday night? Cool. Here's the command that you run. You're going to get your own special channel, your own special match manager. You're going to be able to resolve the matches and handle the leaderboard all on your own so that I don't have to do it. I already spend probably about 4 hours, 4 to 8 hours every weekend doing streaming. I actually spent 12 hours streaming last weekend between the Blast on Last Chance qualifiers, my Broken Edge fight nights, and the Ultimex fight nights. So already time is already a little bit slim for me.
Yeah.
But again, I don't have to be a one-man show at the end of the day. I like running the events that I run, but the realistic answer is, especially sustainability-wise, giving people the tools that they need to run events on Discord with minimal effort. That's the important part, with minimal effort.
Yeah.
That's what's really important in my eyes. And that's part of the reason why I have spent a lot of my time kind of planning out what exactly I want the bot to do. Because it's, again, the version of the bot that I have right now, there's a reason I haven't changed it out at all. It works every single weekend like clockwork. It works. Switching to something different is a little bit scary for me because it would be a change to the core functionality of how I run my events.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I feel like it's really solid. I have a bit of a testing server. I don't want to write checks that I can't cash. It is right now not a matter of the core logic loop. It's a matter of now finding ways to integrate it with the pieces of software that actually do the logic behind match. Like, I want you to be able to run a double elimination bracket with 2v2 teams and do it all on Discord and never have to touch challenge, and have the challenge file afterwards that you can go ahead and look at.
Oh, that'd be cool. Yep. Yeah, that'd be cool. Definitely for posting things, because I know for brackets and stuff, I like posting those things, especially when like a Havoc player wins. Have you posted a video of the game against Pesky and I, where you guys literally stole every freaking power up possible and then put down every wall manageable? Yeah.
Knight is I'm starting to learn a little bit, but even going back and watching it, I was using it mostly to just deny shots. Knight was using it like a sniper. And he was just he knows all of the angles. And again, the nice thing about Ultimex, or the thing that you can complain about Ultimex, is that it doesn't have free movement. It has that teleport to different pads movement, which allows for repeatability. So he knows, hey, if it's bouncing off of this wall, it's going to bounce over here. And I can put down this wall and shoot it into the goal from there. And he's kind of practiced all these things so much that it's muscle memory to him. But looking back at the video, I did post that, I think, yesterday. Do go watch it, because a lot of it was like literally you guys would go ahead and use your ult and it would hit in between the two goals and bounce back. And then we would manage to pick it up. There was at one point, it actually made it into the intro of the video, where you guys both used your ult, bounced off the middle, and then it bounced off the floor middle up to the ceiling and then bounced out. And then we ended up converting it into a goal. So I'm going to chalk that down to luck. The rematch there is going to be epic.
Yeah, definitely, because there was times where, well, first of all, I have not very many people play that mech at all. And so dealing with two, and not only dealing with two, but one highly skilled player using that player as well. And then you guys were stealing our power-ups. Was that there was literally the first 3 minutes of the game, I didn't see a single power-up at all. And then finally when I got a power-up, I go, and it's getting there. I'm like, oh, I'm going to do it. I blow it up, and a wall just goes, doonk.
Yep.
I'm sitting there. I'm just like,
yeah.
What do I even do?
It does beg the question, too, of if and when we're getting more Ultimex mechs. because I have to imagine that 3 is not the final number for that game. I have to imagine that they're going to have more ways to interact with that. Yeah, Titan OP right now, at least in 2v2s, because especially the ability to completely fence y'all in your own play area and deny movement, that's pretty big.
And you get orbs. If you put a wall there, we can't get that orb. That's a major problem. And so I wonder if eventually, I think a good update to this, which would change the dynamic of how things play. So that's why I don't really think they're gonna do it. But I would like to go into your wall like I can go into my wall, but take damage.
Yeah. I think that would be good. And I think it would be a good trade-off too. The one thing I can see there is new players accidentally navigating into walls and getting flustered and then just immediately blowing up. Or just make power-ups not spawn in walls.
Yeah, not spawning walls.
That could be it too.
Hard, though. It'd be pretty hard because it would be literally like just trying to pick up on a Titan. That's all I'd be trying to pick up. And I don't know if you saw this, but Ultimex, they tweeted out I don't know, they did a pretty bold move. They did their top 3, their A list, their B list, and their C list.
Oh.
Yeah, like their A tier, B tier. And so I posted mine. And then I go, technically, I would have them all the same, but just for the fun of it, I'm going to pick my own favorites.
Wow.
Because to me, and they're like, do you think it's pretty balanced? And I go, honestly, if you know how to play each one of them effectively, yes. In my opinion, they are pretty balanced. And I think the only thing that's ever going to change that balance is adding more mechs. Like, I think, what's a good number of mechs? 5, 10?
I'm going to say 10.
10?
I'm going to say 10.
That'd be crazy. Yeah. That'd be nutty.
Yeah, as like a final state, 10 would be, I feel like, a good round number. That's the amount of classes in Iron Lights. It is, in Blast on Heck, you get 6 different weapons to choose from. Yeah. And consider, they do change like the speed of the fists and stuff like that. But those are minor number tweaks. Those are super easy to change. You come out with a new design and a new ult, and boom, you're good to go. That's really it. But again, there's something to be said for emergent play too. I think that's definitely an example of emergent play. The fact that you can use the wall to snipe. I think that every class kind of has their own way of doing it, but with Titan, it's also such a heavy defensive measure. Honestly, the nerf that I would see to Titan is make the walls go away. Like outside of having to punch them or having to spawn another wall. I think that after 30 seconds of being up on the field, if they went away, that would sort of bring things back to the center point. I also don't think that Nitro is that underpowered. I definitely think that, whatever the first one is, the pew pew gun one for sure. I think that one's ult is the most straightforward to use. Yeah, Viper. And I also think that it's the most, not even necessarily precision-based class. I think it's a good default class to have. I almost view Nitro as more aggressive version of the Viper. And 24 shows too a lot of the time that those blasts can be actually even more useful than the Viper blasts, because you can actually navigate in such a position that you get the angle that you need.
Exactly, and he's got those angles down. And not only that, but he can be right up on the goal. And I think Pesky mentioned this to me. He's like, hey, you're 2 tiles ahead. You should be maybe 1 tile from the ball. But I also don't like looking up like this the whole entire time trying to shoot the ball. I get so flustered when they keep it above me in our goal and I'm just a wall and I'm just trying to find the ball. I'm like, where is it? I'm snapping my neck to find the freaking thing. But yeah, I've seen him literally. Me and him played. And I don't know if you ever noticed, but he always gets to 24-0, even if they get there. Usually the lucky number for someone to leave is 10 points. But if we do we'll get to 24 points. But watching him doing it sometimes, he'll get right up to the ball and just instantly do the thing, and it's right in there. I'm just like,
yeah,
dude, that's insane.
It's bananas. Honestly, I'm pretty glad with how our matchup went. It only worked because we were able to block off 2/3 of our goal as the ult was happening. So yeah, I mean he came. I mean he's the top player in Blast On right now. He came out the gate with Ultimex though and really picked that up quick.
You see how many
So
goals he has?
good, like 3,000.
Dude, I was just like,
It's
I told him,
crazy.
I go, you're on Havoc for the Blast On team, and I go, I'm sorry, but you're already on the team for Ultimex, like, and then
You can
he,
only take him for what?
oh, that ain't true. I played multiple games, but so we have two players already for a full team, and then I play. I haven't found my one and only yet.
Mm.
I'm looking for my one and only to win games with.
My life Ultimex partner.
Yeah, my life Ultimex partner. But yeah, I've noticed that besides your stuff and then the Party League, which Party League isn't going to be doing it weekly. I mean it is weekly, but it's a league. You're playing. You pick one partner, and I got to find a partner for that, and you play continuously until they don't even know how long it's going to go yet. I asked them, I go, what's the time frame? They go, we don't know. Until I guess they know how many people are going to be part of it and all that. But it's kind of weird, and it's kind of one thing that I wish down the road with all these new headsets come out is that it gives people like Ultimex that make a really good game. Resolution alone, which is their firm that puts all these together for like Demio and Blast On, and
Blast On,
yeah, freaking didn't sound right for a second. And then now Ultimex, they have a good credit score, and with this, if you go to the Oculus store right now, will you see it on the front page?
No, I don't think so.
The only place you will see it is in the new releases. But as soon as it's a week, a month old, even though it will be doing really good, it will be forgotten. And that's the one thing that really kind of bugs me with Oculus, because the only things that they really stick to are those easy $5-10 buys, like the plank game where you just do the elevator. They know that someone's getting an elevator. They know it is a trending thing that if some granny freaking falls on their face, they go viral on TikTok. So why put Ultimex that is free? But instead we want our easy $5-10 that Facebook owns.
Yeah. And you know what? Just because I'm curious now, top selling right now, as far as the meta marketplace, Bone Lab and NFL Pro. Okay, one of those is definitely a high name game. I don't know how many people are actually out here playing the NFL Pro game. I've never even heard of this, to be quite frank with you.
Dude, they just came out with a video with quarterbacks with an Oculus headset, which was pretty big for VR. So,
oh, dang.
Yeah.
Dang. And then Blade and Sorcery Nomad, Beat Saber. And here's where you start to get into it. Beat Saber, Job Simulator, Super Hot, Contractors, Thrill of the Fight, Onwards. These are all games that, of course, they're top selling as far as overall, number of sales,
not monthly.
They're overall,
exactly.
They're not top selling of the week. Yeah. They're not top selling of the year.
They're not trending.
It's just top selling. Yeah. The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners. How long has that game been around? Since what?
Forever.
2018. Yeah, exactly. 4 years. So I feel like again, this, and actually, VR Central talked about it earlier too. A large issue right now with VR is discoverability. A lot of the really, really cracked games are not getting the attention that they really should be, because the discoverability on every platform, Twitch, YouTube actually does fairly well with it. TikTok is so poor that if you are genuinely interested in virtual reality, well, hey, guess what? You're going to see the same 3 or 4 games over and over and over again, instead of all these new fresh games that people are genuinely taking risks on.
Yeah. And like I told my buddy, he wanted to get, so he's like, his kid, like, he doesn't want to pay a new game all the time. You know how much kids, they'll play a game for an hour and then they'll drop it. And I told him, I go, has your kid not like heard of Ultimex yet? And he goes, no. And so I go, dude, it is free and it is a phenomenal game. He came back. He goes, that's all his kid plays right now. And I'm like, good. I'm like, because more, but here's the thing. It's just like, why is that not a general thing that they know about? You know, but the thing is, and the weird thing is, alone, is that he didn't even know what Population 1 was.
Mm.
But you know what he did know?
Yeah.
You know what he knew? Oddly enough, what game he knew about?
Echo.
For a kid. Guess.
I mean, Echo. That's still a valid guess for
Gorilla
a kid.
Tag.
Oh, Gorilla. Yeah, which isn't even technically on the store right now, too.
No, and so somehow these kids know about Gorilla Tag. And so, I mean, that thing's littered with kids. So I think they intermingle with each other. Like, you know, they're playing tag at school, and they're just like, wait till we get home, we play some Gorilla Tag.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I don't know what it is that draws kids so strongly to that game. Maybe it's just a simple execution, but yeah, it's hard sometimes to be in those lobbies. I feel like that's part of the reason I stopped playing was just because so many children sometimes. But it's an issue that every free game will have. If Ultimex had voice chat, it would have that exact same issue, I am sure.
Gun Raiders has that problem.
That's another old one, isn't it?
No, it came out.
I must be thinking of something
a
different.
year or two.
I'm thinking of Junk Raiders.
Junk Raiders. Yeah, this one's called Gun Raiders. It's a pretty basic graphical game. It's on Quest.
Yeah.
I think we have like the #1 team right now in that game.
Oh dang! There you go.
I think so. Pretty sure.
There you go. Yeah, just turned 1 a day ago. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Gun Raiders. I enjoy Gun Raiders. But yeah, I think I spent more time because they have this open world. I thought the funniest thing ever. And I believe I don't remember if I streamed this or not, but I was just at home drinking a couple beers, hanging out in VR, and you can go to the city and you don't have to play competitively. You can just go and open to the city and get a gun and then just go around mowing people down. Well, you know how kids make up these fun little games in their head. Well, they all like found this lair where they were all hiding, having a conversation, and I went in there with a Gatling gun and just started mowing them all down, and they all started screaming like, "Oh no, there's an intruder!" And then all of a sudden, they finally killed me after I just like murdered them all. And then, kids being kids, they went back to the same place. So I made a game out of this where I was like, I waited every so often, I would jump around,
set the trap,
I'd let them gather in again. And then I'd walk in, and there's one point where I was just walking in, chilling. They're just like, "Hey, are you the person? You look like the person." I was just like, I just loaded in the game. I have no clue what you're talking about. And all of a sudden, they're just like, "Oh, well, there's a person that's coming in with a Gatling gun." I go, "This Gatling gun?" Yeah, too much fun. Too much fun with that.
That does sound fun. I'll have to go ahead and pick it up. This does actually look fun.
It's a free game too, so it's a decent game for a free game.
Always good to check out the free games. If nothing else.
Always, because they did the thing that is Idea, which they're making their money off of cosmetics, which is, in my opinion, the way to go. If you want a good game that's gonna make a killing continuously, then a $5 bundle, of a progression of giving someone a battle pass is the most easy money maker in this world. Because one thing, people love competition. Another thing, people like collecting random shit, just littering. That's why NFTs are so freaking big, because you're literally collecting shit. And, a lot of people from NFTs are probably like, "No, it ain't that. It's an investment." But anyways, and then people just like completing stuff, And so I think that's why it's definitely why like Fortnite was so successful, is that it was free. Yeah. Here's a bundle. So, but
yeah, and I think it's again, it's not bad if you build your game with free to play in mind. Yeah. There are non-invasive ways to monetize an existing audience. And I think cosmetics don't hurt anybody. You can have several different tiers based off what it is. And you know what? Hey, it's usually, as long as you're being ethical about it, cheap and cheerful. So there you go.
For sure. So yeah, we've been going for a while, and so
we have been going for a while.
We've been going for a while. Which there's nothing wrong with going a while. I love.
I do have work in the morning,
so do I.
I'm gonna go ahead and take me out here for sure.
We're not done yet. We got like
5
more minutes. 5 more minutes.
5 more minutes. That's fine. I can do 5 more.
And all it is.
That is wrap up. That is wrap up. Hold on.
No, we are wrapping up. It wasn't just like you can leave right now, okay, sir? You stay right here.
Leave.
You can't leave me. You can't leave me. We are stuck here forever.
We're in the jungle.
Exactly.
This looks like my backyard.
We're in the jungle. So anyways, I just wanted to give you a brief second to kind of just say whatever you want. Get people to the right direction. Say anything that's going to stay on the internet forever.
Cool. Yeah. As per always. So yeah, if you like me, you like the things I do, links are down in the description below. If you're interested in any of the events I run this weekend, it is going to be Iron Lights Fight Nights happening at 4 o'clock Eastern time. 1 o'clock Pacific time. I'm still used to doing that conversion. And then Ultimex will be going back to a 1v1 format using the bot, going to be happening at 3 o'clock Pacific time, 6 o'clock Eastern time. That is all happening this Saturday. Sunday's event, probably not going to be doing an event this Sunday. Probably am going to be taking a break. But we do have wild card events that happen at 11 o'clock on Sundays. Sometimes those pop up halfway through the week. So to stay tuned with everything that I'm doing, do join the Discord down below. That is the main point of contact. Everything else can come secondary. Do join the Discord first.
Yeah, there you have it. Definitely join the Discord. That's why I had to get you on this podcast, because I did your tournament on Saturday and I had a blast. You know, we got 3rd place. Your team did beat us. We went all the way to the full 3 matches. And it was a really good matchup.
It was. It was really good.
It was a blast. So, well, thanks for putting those together, and thanks for coming on the podcast. And so let's kind of end it. I do want to say I can't wait to find out what's going to happen for the Meta Connect tomorrow. That's going to be – either going to be people are going to make fun of Meta, or they're going to be like, oh, crap, there's some shit coming. Like, there's some stuff coming. So I hope it's the second option. And then other than that, go see my sponsors, Olin and Rucked Up. They got some good stuff right there. They got some goodies. Probably some of the best products I've ever used. It's why I have.
All right. Well, now we do have to give equal time to
you're gonna give Rucked Up? You can.
I'm gonna give. Listen, I don't. If I'm doing an ad, I gotta do my ad. So Rucked Up is a community for all things VR. It looks like they are a game marketplace. And, they also do accessories.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
It confused me a bit because they also actually have a link on their page to Olin VR. So I thought for a second that they were just promoting it, but no, they do have their own accessories. It looks like they focus actually more on pistol accessories. But also some very cool skins for their products. I do see a lot of America stuff.
He's not American though. He's Canadian.
He also has some Canadian stuff and some Mexican stuff. So definitely a North American, if nothing else. But yeah, looks like super cool stuff. Actually, these
and his head strap,
super cool.
Yeah.
Oh, and a head strap.
Strap.
Let's see the tech in this head strap.
So it's a nice. It's So I just had the regular headset. I purchased his headset and I was just like, yep. This is definitely where it's at, and it's a decent price, because I wasn't going to go buy the Elite strap because that's a lot of money.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And then one day I get something in the mail, and it had his logo on it, and he sent me 2 pistols. And
oh, nice.
I'm just like, yep, I will be downloading Pistol Whip and having fun with those pistols. And they go, and like, my wife is just like, oh no. She's just like, there's going to be a night where that's just
immersion.
Yeah, immersion. Exactly. And I'm going to have so much fun with them. So,
but the headset strap looks great. It looks like it's got a lot of padding in the back of the head. I know that for me, with my long flocks of flowing hair, I can definitely appreciate a headset that actually gives me a spot to put up a ponytail up above too, which looks like it could navigate around the top strap. So yeah, go ahead and check out their products. It's going to be at, let me make sure I'm getting this right, beacons.ai / ruck up VR. That's RUCKUPVR. So
Link
Beacons,
in the description.
Link in the description. But in case you're listening to this, beacons.ai / ruck up VR.
Yeah. Well, thank you for doing both those ads. Like, that's great.
You're welcome. I would like to thank my brother and me for teaching me how to do clean ad reads, even with no script. And yeah, go do check out all the links below, and also the Havoc Discord. It's a good place to hang out. Good people.
Yep. And if you're looking for any competitive scene, we have a ticket bot that you can click it for any game that you think you are a competitive player in, and once you click that button, it sends you straight to your own private chat with our manager. And not only the manager, but the captain of the individual team. And you get a tryout. And there's no crying if you don't make it. It's just part of life, you know. We try and take the very best, what makes us the lovely Havoc organization we are. But next week, as long as they haven't messaged me back, but as of what I know, I'm having on Arcadia. So that's going to be a pretty good podcast. I'm very interested in their product. It's a product that you put on a headset and you actually play in a full-size gym. And you're playing games like throwing a ball, running through mazes and stuff like that. So you're actually physically doing stuff. And so hopefully that's still going on. The person that I was in contact with has been traveling. So if he can't, then obviously I'll find someone else. It's not a big deal because they're busy. They're about to release this thing, and it's great. So hopefully they come on. If so, it's going to be at 9 p.m. East as always. If not, then you might just get my face, or I might just grab someone from having like, sorry, you're on the podcast this week. So other than that,
you're on the podcast. Do not resist.
Yeah, exactly. Put that away. So, Dr. Oolong, thank you for coming on. Let's go ahead and say bye to everybody. Let me put this on the nice little ending screen. But thank you again, everyone, for watching. This was a great podcast. Have a lovely rest of your week. Say bye.
Bye. Have a good one, y'all.